Against the backdrop of yet another round of threats from Donald Trump, intensive preparations for a potential United States attack on Iran continue in the Middle East. Today, Flightradar 24 provided a very telling episode. A Russian heavy transport aircraft, an Ilyushin 76, operated by Helix Airlines with registration RA76373, arrived in the Tehran area and staged a real detective story in the capital's satellite city, Karaj. The picture looks like this. The aircraft lit up in the morning over the Caspian Sea and the northern provinces of Iran. Then came a descent toward the Alborz province, and at approximately 10:30 local time, the track on the map simply cut off. The system did not indicate a final destination for the flight, and its status was marked as unknown. There was also no landing time recorded. A few hours later, at approximately 1400 hours, the transponder switched back on during the climb. The aircraft headed north, back toward the Russian Federation across the Caspian. In total, this amounts to only 3 to 4 hours on the ground. And this is where the most interesting part begins. We will not claim that this involves intentional jamming or a special operation. There is no direct evidence for this. However, the break in the track itself in such a sensitive area does not look like a coincidence. Such episodes on civilian trackers often coincide with zones where military facilities are located, or where a restricted radio exchange regime is in effect. In this context, the Karaj district cannot be called a neutral point on the map. It objectively belongs to those locations where high-security infrastructure is present. Why Karaj specifically? Because it is not a tourist hub or a standard civilian airport with scheduled flights. Instead, there are nearby facilities that always carry heightened sensitivity. The closed Fath Air Base, infrastructure of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Imam Hassan Mojtaba Regional Control Center. This is a powerful Iranian structure, essentially a state within a state. Additionally, Karaj hosts the Shahid Maysami Group Industrial and Scientific Cluster, which various sources link to Iran's defense and technological developments. Karaj remains one of the most protected points on the map of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and every such arrival is another piece of the puzzle in the extensive military-technical cooperation between the two countries. Now, the main question is, what could such an aircraft have brought, and why does it look urgent? The Ilyushin 76 is a workhorse for the fast delivery of things that cannot be transported for a long time or in public. If a plane spends only a few hours at a point, it usually doesn't look like crew rest, but rather a quick unloading of specific cargo followed by an equally fast departure to avoid the lenses of spy satellites. Our logic here is simple. Against the background of increasing threats from the White House, Iran could be urgently receiving components to help close its skies. It is not necessary to immediately mention loud names. The essence lies elsewhere. These could be units for strengthening air defense, radar elements, control modules, communication tools, or electronic warfare components that make the operation of enemy drones and precision weapons much more difficult. And yes, that is why the track break looks like part of the general picture. Either the area is indeed being jammed, or the flight itself was structured to disappear from public trackers at the most critical moment. A parallel here suggests itself. We have seen how air defense systems were constantly brought into Ukraine during various periods to close the sky. Not forever, but enough to make any air operation costly and difficult for the enemy. Iran is now following a similar logic. If you cannot win in the air classically, you act so that the enemy thinks 10 times before pressing the button. 1 or 2 strikes can still be survived. However, a systemic campaign where every sortie and every missile hits a dense defense and interference turns into a completely different conversation. And here is a coincidence that looks all too timely. Literally today, a trilateral meeting of Russia, China, and Iran was held in Vienna on issues related to the Iranian nuclear program. This was reported by the representative of the Russian Federation to international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov. When you have mysterious flights to sensitive areas and synchronous diplomatic activity in Europe on the same line, it begins to form a single picture. Preparation is underway along two tracks at once, the public and the non-public.